The baseball world just got turned completely upside down. And what's happening right now with Bichette, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Toronto Blue Jays is about to redefine how we think about championship roster construction and free agency strategy. This isn't just another rumor or speculation. MLB insider John Heyman just confirmed that the Philadelphia Phillies have expressed serious interest in signing Bichette, joining the Yankees, Dodgers, Cubs, and Red Sox in what's becoming one of the most competitive and fascinating bidding wars of the entire offseason. But here's what makes this story absolutely explosive and what separates it from typical free agency drama. The Phillies just battled the Blue Jays in what many are calling the greatest World Series ever played, and now they want the weapon that nearly destroyed them. This isn't panic buying or desperate roster filling. This is calculated championship architecture at its absolute finest, and it reveals something profound about how elite organizations evaluate talent versus how casual fans react to narratives. If you want to understand the real strategic chess match happening right now, why Bichette's value is being recognized by every championship contender in baseball, and what the Blue Jays' signing of Kazuma Okamoto actually means for their future, you need to hear every single detail of this analysis because this story is about to reshape the entire competitive landscape of Major League Baseball. Let's start by establishing exactly what championship organizations see when they evaluate Bichette, because the numbers tell a story that goes far beyond the surface-level narratives that dominate social media and casual baseball conversations. In 2025, Bichette didn't just bounce back from his injury-plagued 2024 season. He absolutely dominated at a level that puts him in elite company across all of baseball. He slashed .311, .357, .483, with 18 home runs and 94 RBIs across 139 games. But here's the statistic that should make every baseball executive sit up and pay attention. Bichette led the entire American League with 181 hits. That's not just volume production, that's elite consistency at the highest level of the game. When you lead your entire league in hits, you're not getting lucky. You're putting the barrel on the ball with precision and frequency that very few players in baseball can match. But the stat that truly separates Bichette from virtually every other hitter in Major League Baseball is this. He became the only player in all of baseball to hit over 300 against fastballs, breaking balls, and changeups. Think about what that actually means from a scouting and strategic perspective. In October baseball, when pitchers are mixing their best stuff and hitters are seeing the nastiest repertoires in the game, Bichette can handle everything thrown at him with elite-level production. That's not just a good hitter, that's a complete hitter who can't be exploited with any particular pitch type or approach. For teams building championship rosters specifically for postseason success, that kind of complete hitting profile is invaluable and incredibly rare. Since his 2019 debut, Bichette has established himself as one of the most productive middle infielders in all of baseball, batting to .294 with 111 home runs while leading the American League in hits in both 2021 and 2022. That's sustained excellence over multiple seasons, not a hot streak or a career year that might be an outlier. This is who Bichette is as a hitter. A high-average, high-contact player with legitimate power who produces at an elite level year after year. Yes, 2024 was brutal with just a .225 average and 4 home runs in 81 games due to injuries. But here's what separates championship organizations from average ones. They don't panic over injury years when the track record shows consistent elite production before and after. They recognize elite talent entering its prime years, and they strike when the opportunity presents itself. At 27 years old, Bichette is exactly where teams want to buy in free agency. He's proven his ability to produce at an elite level. He's entering what should be his prime years from ages 27 to 32. And he's coming off a season that proves the injuries are behind him and the elite production is back. This is the perfect storm of timing, talent, and track record that creates competitive bidding wars among championship organizations. The Phillies, Yankees, Dodgers, Cubs, and Red Sox aren't all pursuing Bichette because they're confused about his value. They're pursuing him because they understand exactly what he brings, and they know that elite middle infield talent is the scarcest resource in baseball. Now let's talk about why the Philadelphia Phillies' specific interest is so revealing about modern championship building and what it tells us about how elite organizations operate. The Phillies just re-signed Kyle Schwarber to a massive 5-year, $150 million contract in December after he crushed 38 home runs and drove in a league-leading 132 RBIs while finishing second in NL MVP voting. That contract alone tells you everything you need to know about the Phillies' competitive timeline. That's not a team looking to rebuild or reset their roster. That's a team aggressively maintaining and expanding a championship window while their core players are in their prime. Adding Bichette to a lineup that already features Bryce Harper, Trea Turner, and Kyle Schwarber would create one of the most dangerous and balanced offensive cores in all of baseball. You'd have elite contact and average from Bichette, elite speed and defense from Turner, elite power from Harper and Schwarber, all in the same lineup. That's the kind of multi-dimensional offensive attack that can score runs in multiple ways, and that's incredibly difficult for opposing pitchers to navigate through a 7-game playoff series. The Phillies clearly learned something watching Bichette up close during the 2025 World Series. And what they learned was that they want him wearing their uniform rather than trying to stop him. But here's where the strategic fit gets really interesting and where Bichette's versatility becomes championship-level valuable. The Phillies have Trea Turner locked in at shortstop, and Turner just had arguably his best season with the organization in 2025. He won the National League batting title with a .344 average, the first Philly to accomplish that feat since 1958. Defensively, Turner posted 17 outs above average with a fielding run value of 11, ranked 4th among all MLB shortstops. That's elite production at a premium position, and there's zero chance the Phillies are moving Turner off shortstop after that kind of season. So where would Bichette actually play in Philadelphia? And why does this fit make so much sense despite the positional overlap? This is where Bichette's willingness to change positions transforms him from a good fit into a perfect fit. During the 2025 World Series, Blue Jays manager John Schneider moved Bichette to second base to keep his bat in the lineup while managing a knee injury. Bichette played 5 games at second base in that World Series, performing well defensively while maintaining his offensive production. More importantly, sources confirm that Bichette has told teams this winter that he's willing to make that position switch permanent. That's not desperation or a player accepting a demotion. That's intelligent roster flexibility and team-first mentality that championship organizations absolutely crave. Second base represents the cleanest landing spot for Bichette in Philadelphia. The Phillies currently have Bryson Stott manning second base, and while Stott provides solid defense with 8 outs above average ranking in the 94th percentile, his offensive production of .257, .328, .391 is essentially league average. Bichette would represent a massive offensive upgrade at the position. We're talking about going from a .257 hitter to a .311 hitter, from league average production to elite production, while maintaining at minimum competent defense at second base. That's the kind of roster upgrade that can add 5 to 10 wins to a team's season, and that can be the difference between a division title and a wild card, or between advancing in October and going home early. The alternative positioning would be third base, where Alec Bohm currently plays for the Phillies. Moving Bichette to third base would be more of a defensive challenge given his range limitations, but it's absolutely doable, especially if the Phillies believe his offensive production outweighs any defensive downgrade. Championship teams constantly make these calculations, weighing offensive value against defensive positioning, and more often than not, they conclude that elite hitting is harder to find than adequate defense. If Bichette can be even an average defender at third base while providing his elite offensive production, that's a massive net positive for the roster. Here's the uncomfortable truth that Blue Jays fans need to understand and process because it changes the entire narrative around what's happening in Toronto right now. The Blue Jays signing of Japanese infielder Kazuma Okamoto to a 4-year, $60 million contract might not signal that they're giving up on Bichette. It might actually prove they're building championship-level depth and roster flexibility regardless of whether Bichette returns. Okamoto is a 6-time NPB All-Star who hit .327, .416, .598 with elite power numbers in Japan. That's not a consolation prize or a backup plan. That's a legitimate star-level player who can contribute immediately at multiple positions. The Okamoto signing gives Toronto several strategic options depending on how the Bichette situation resolves. If Bichette leaves, Okamoto can slide into an infield spot and provide elite offensive production to replace at least some of what Bichette brought. If Bichette returns, Toronto suddenly has incredible infield flexibility with the ability to move players around based on matchups, rest needs, and defensive optimization. You could play Bichette at short, Okamoto at second, and suddenly you have two elite offensive players up the middle of your defense. Or you move Bichette to second, keep Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at first, and figure out the optimal defensive alignment while keeping elite bats in the lineup. The point is that the Okamoto signing doesn't preclude bringing Bichette back. If anything, it shows Toronto is thinking about championship-level roster construction where you have multiple elite options rather than being dependent on any single player. Now let's talk about the financial realities, because this is where the rubber meets the road in free agency and where championship commitment gets tested. Toronto extended Bichette a qualifying offer worth $21.05 million for 1 year back in November, which he rejected to test free agency. That rejection wasn't surprising. When you're 27 years old, coming off a 3-1-1 season leading the league in hits, you're going to bet on yourself in free agency and seek long-term security. Projections from various baseball analysts suggest Bichette could command an 8-year contract approaching $200 million, with an average annual value around $25 million per season. For context, that would put Bichette's AAV in the neighborhood of what Xander Bogaerts got from San Diego, 11 years, $280 million, $25.5 million AAV, what Corey Seager got from Texas, 10 years, $325 million, $32.5 million AAV, and what Trea Turner himself got from Philadelphia, 11 years, $300 million, $27.3 million AAV. Those are the comps for elite middle infield talent in today's market. And based on Bichette's production and age, he's absolutely in that tier of player. The question isn't whether he's worth that money based on his talent and track record. The question is whether Toronto or another team is willing to commit that kind of money to secure his services for the next 8-10 years. For Philadelphia specifically, adding Bichette at $25 million per year would push their payroll well above $300 million once you account for Turner's deal, Harper's massive contract, Schwarber's new extension, and the rest of their roster. But here's what separates championship organizations from pretenders in today's game. They understand that competitive windows close fast in baseball, and when you have the chance to add elite talent in its prime to an already championship-caliber roster, hesitation costs rings. The Phillies have decided they're all in on winning now, while Harper, Turner, and their pitching staff are at their peak. Adding Bichette fits perfectly into that timeline and philosophy. For the Blue Jays, the calculation is slightly different but equally important. Toronto just made the World Series. They have young talent throughout the roster. They have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. entering his prime. They have strong pitching. But if they let Bichette walk and don't adequately replace his production, they're potentially closing their competitive window just as it's opening. Yes, Okamoto helps fill that gap, but there's no guarantee he'll produce at Bichette's level immediately in MLB. The safer, smarter play for Toronto might be to match whatever offers Bichette gets and keep their championship core together for another run. Here's the broader strategic truth that this situation reveals about modern baseball. When multiple big-market championship contenders are all battling to sign your homegrown star, it validates everything your organization has done in player development and scouting. The Blue Jays didn't get lucky with Bichette. They identified elite talent, developed it properly, and watched it blossom into exactly what they hoped it would become. Now the challenge is whether they have the organizational commitment and financial resources to keep that talent when everyone else in baseball recognizes its value. The Phillies watched Bichette up close during the 2025 World Series. They saw his clutch hitting in the biggest moments. They saw his ability to put the ball in play when games were on the line. They saw his leadership, his baseball IQ, his competitive fire. And they came away thinking, we need that guy on our team instead of playing against us. That's not disrespect to Toronto. That's actually the ultimate compliment. It means Bichette performed so well on the biggest stage in baseball that the team he was facing wants to make him their own weapon. The Yankees' interest makes sense given their need for middle infield help and their perpetual willingness to spend on star talent. The Dodgers are always in on elite players because that's their organizational philosophy. Acquire the best talent available and figure out the fit later. The Cubs are trying to return to contention, and adding an elite middle infielder would signal serious intent. The Red Sox need to rebuild their competitive roster after several down years. All of these teams pursuing Bichette tells you that this isn't about one team being desperate. This is about every championship-minded organization recognizing elite talent and trying to secure it. Bichette has made it clear through his representatives that he wants to return to Toronto. That's genuine, and it matters. Players who've spent their entire careers with one organization often feel loyalty and connection that goes beyond just financial considerations. But in free agency, loyalty meets reality when massive contracts start flying and when teams are offering life-changing generational wealth. If the Blue Jays want Bichette back, they're going to have to pay market rate or close to it. Hometown discounts happen occasionally, but they're rare when we're talking about differences of tens of millions of dollars over the life of a contract. So what should the Blue Jays actually do here? The smart play, the championship-minded play, is to do whatever it takes within reason to bring Bichette back and complete their championship roster. They've already shown they can win at the highest level. They've already proven their core is championship caliber. Why break that up just as it's reaching its peak? The Okamoto signing gives them insurance and flexibility, but it shouldn't be viewed as a replacement for Bichette. It should be viewed as an addition to a championship core that includes Bichette, Guerrero, and the rest of Toronto's elite talent.